Okay,
Okay.
I hope we are seen and heard. Welcome, everybody, for
Hello. Yeah,
uh,
good.
yes, yeah. Welcome, everybody, for our session. It is devoted to mostly to post-Soviet world and sustainability transitions that are expected to happen here. We have four presentations over here, and not to take much time because we started a bit later. I introduce the first participants to deliver the presentation. Imogen, she will tell us. She present us some reflections on how tipsy philosophy and approach can be applied to post-Soviet countries and to Russia. Thank you, Megan. Your floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. Just send a message in the chat if there are any sound problems. Um, yes, thank you all for being here. I'm just going to talk very briefly for just 5 minutes or so, with just a brief introduction, and then we can hear from the other presenters. So I'm going to share my screen. Now, here we go. Okay, so reading mode. Okay, so hopefully you can see my presentation slides. So yes, very briefly, I'm a research fellow at Science Policy Research Unit in University of Sussex. My PhD and forthcoming book is about innovation policy in Russia. And for the past 2 years, I've been working in Sprue on the TIPSY project and its sister project, Deep Transitions Futures, which is trying to come up with a new investment philosophy for a more sustainable world with a panel of private and public investors. So very briefly, sort of just as an introduction, we feel that Russia and other post-Soviet countries are really a blind spot in sustainability studies. Both in research and in policy world. And yet the paradox is that former Soviet USSR countries now occupy nearly 1/6 of the Earth's land surface. They contribute hugely to environmental degradation and to climate change. We do see in the last few years, we have seen some recent some policy shifts in the region towards setting targets for net zero emissions and for diversifying away from oil and gas to more renewable sources of energy. Turning to Russia, the country I know most about. So up till now, Russia has relied on oil and gas exports for a large proportion of its national income. Yet it won't be able to rely on this income by 2050. So this is really an imperative for it to diversify its energy supply. At the same time, Russia is the fourth biggest emitter of greenhouse gases globally, after China, US, and India. So this is where sort of TIPSY comes in. The Transformative Innovation Policy Consortium, which is what I've been working on for the last couple of years. It's a 5-year program. It's got 1 more year of operations, and the key kind of tenet of the TIP methodology, as you may know, is this idea of the third frame of innovation, which is really about making innovation policy work for transformative change. In contrast to frame 1, which is about R&D and regulation, which was the dominant policy up until the 1980s, and frame 2, which emerged from the 1980s and in the 1990s, which is about taking a national systems of innovation approach innovation policy. I think I just I already mentioned that TIPSI is a 5-year project, policy oriented. It does involve policymakers from around the world, but not from post-Soviet countries. So the closest would be the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. So this is what this session is going to be discussing about, sort of the relevance of TIP for post-Soviet countries. I think I'll move on to just some brief remarks about how I see, to what extent I see TIP, Transformative Innovation Policy, being feasible, workable in post-Soviet spaces. So I see sort of 3 points in terms of how it can be, its scope, how it can be feasible, which are that many Central and Eastern European countries have been pursuing a similar kind of innovation policy already, called smart specialization. It was developed by European Commission, and the key tenet of this is about policy experimentation at local and regional level. And in terms of, Russia specifically, which is the country that I've been working on till now, we do see there have been quite a wide range of regional experiments with STI policy instruments. So, for example, the creation of science towns, of science technology parks, of innovation clusters. And these are all geographically based innovation policies. The question of how successful they've been is another matter, but the point I'm trying to make is that Russia has been experimenting with different ways of fostering innovation. So there is that sort of experience, capability, legacy. And there are some policy entrepreneurs at regional and local levels of governance who are willing and shown to be capable of managing policy experiments. But there are some barriers, I think, some challenges that the post-Soviet countries would face if they tried to implement TIP. I think that it would be hard to have a TIP agenda in countries where frame 2 kind of thinking of it about innovation, the national systems of innovation thinking is predominant, and where governments prefer a more top-down style of governance. Then there's the challenge of building networks and connecting up various disparate policy experiments at regional and local level, as well as the related challenge of scaling up and gaining support from national or federal level governments for the TIP agenda. And finally, I think there is a real challenge of sort of post-Soviet governments allowing policies to fail and learning from these failures, which, from my research in Russia, I've found is something that policymakers in Russia find particularly difficult, learning from failures rather than just doing something new and sort of almost forgetting about past policies. I think, I'll probably leave it here. I'll give the floor back to Olga to introduce the next speaker. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. It's a good launch for the session. So yes, next we try to be more specific about different stakeholders and different policies regarding in the sphere of sustainable transition and development. And our next speaker is Ivan Chalakov. He will tell about the case of domestication of European energy policy in Bulgaria. Ivan, please.
It's me. Okay. Hello. Just a moment, please. Can I start now? Yeah. I have. Are you hearing, Olga?
Yes, yes, everything is okay.
Okay.
You can try. You
Okay
have
then.
10 minutes. That's okay.
The only thing I added after I sent you my presentation is the claim that I will start with the assumption that TIP is still is maybe one of the basic precondition is some power of nation state to steer the whole process of science, technology, innovation. But I can ask what happens when the nation state is hijacked either by selfish local elites or and foreign interests. And then I think, as it was the case in my country up until very recently, at least last 15 years, it is barely possible to design this deep social technical change, exploring what is deep is stressing. So I can the tip, at least for my country, I can see it. There's no anyone interested in long-term strategic development, at least maybe on some local level. So I go to my presentation, and I will try to prove this with the case of introduction of wind and solar power in my country. So we'll first say what was the state of power system on the eve of our European Union membership in 2007, the adoption of EU green regulations, and the rapid expansion of renewable energy in country for about 5-6 year period, and then the crisis happened in 14, late 13, 2014, and then what happened after that. So if you look at the early at the end of the communist period, Bulgaria was more or less in the field of electric production and consumption in tune similar to the other European countries. If you compare, for example, kilowatt per person, Belgium 142, Bulgaria 136, and even higher than Netherlands, and the same kilowatt hour per person. You can see probably the same with Netherlands. And the mixture, energy mix is combined between nuclear power, thermal power, and hydropower. So actually, it was quite well structured because we have the major, about third of electricity was coming from a lignite power complex with 3 big power plants, which are very maybe 10 years after the changes have been privatized by Italian and American investors, and one remained in government. Also, so this is about 50% of, and 40% was coming from the nuclear power. At that time, there's 4 reactors in Kozloduy, and then in early 90s, it took 2 more reactors. So at one point, Kozloduy provided more than 50%. And then hydropower is balancing, and they built some big pumping storage, so that kind of, so it is quite stable, and also it is quite well connected with other countries, which I dismiss it with strong 200 and 400 kilowatt grid line with Greece, Turkey, Romania, former Soviet Union, Serbia, and then Yugoslavia, then former Yugoslavia, Republic of North Macedonia now. It was kind of, they call it a golden age, and also have a strong research base, which was kind of doing some in-house research and innovation. So what happened is that we published a book called The Black Hole Bulgaria Industry. In mid-90s, it was privatized, especially repairing units, then biggest TPP and electro distribution enterprises. And in 2007, what is interesting that although there was some research and experiment in wind and solar energy, practically it was negligible. Few 100 kilowatts of wind power, despite the effort of some British research and government organization to introduce wind power in late 90s and early 2000, and practically non-existent solar power. But becoming member of European Union in January 2007, and then in May 2007, it was adopted the European law, which stipulated that energy coming from renewable sources like wind and solar will be purchased the special prices, which are about 5 to 6 times more than the price for energy purchased from the nuclear power station, and maybe 3 to 4 times from the thermal power station. And suddenly, from the summer of 2007, it was a really investment boom, not only local entrepreneurs and local industrial group, but also foreign investors, including from Switzerland, from South Korea, from Japan, from Germany. And what happened is that we can see this table that this is 1987 and 2017 for about 30-year period. And you can see that actually in 2007, wind and photovoltaic, it is solar power, is not existent. And then it is we have about 1,000 megawatts of installed solar power, about 700 megawatts wind power. And it is completely new phenomenon between late 2007 and 2013. So if you look at the how wind power came to Bulgaria, you can see that up to 2005, 2006, it is less than few hundred kilowatt, then a few megawatts, and then suddenly it started from between 2008, 2007, and 2011, 12, 5 years period, which was just from practically maybe 20 megawatts to 660, 80 megawatts. And then and what is interesting, then it's next 8 years, it's staying almost without change. And we can see the same with solar power. So what happened is that how we can explain this specific, especially in photovoltaic, we have a big jump in 2011, 2012, suddenly from less than 200 to. So what happened? And to explain what happened is, so this is the pattern which can be seen. Short period of of accelerated development, and then abrupt stop of development. How to and all this push was based on the subsidized price from long-term contracts, and it was paid not by the government actually, but by consumers. So every household and every industrial consumer received in their monthly bill a line called green energy, which is about 50% of the consumed energy. So everyone in the country is paying for the green energy. But what was steering is not a small local entrepreneur and household to install, for example, photovoltaic on their roofs, on their small shops, but large investors. And this is pronounced in both in photovoltaic, in solar, and in so with the growth, sudden growth of photovoltaic and solar wind power, which have to be paid, and the monthly bill increased. And then in the winter of 2013-14, there's a large demonstration. People protested for their high bill, and populist government of Boyko Borisov in the spring of 2014 say, okay, we will stop signing new contract for solar and wind power. And they just frozen, but the people continue paying for those who have already been installed. So which are and this is some prices that for solar power is about 370 per megawatt hour, and this is from one other price for household to 2082. So and to explain this, I made comparison with Germany. in Bulgaria, the share of installed power coming from small solar farms, less than 30 kilowatts, like this one of the root of houses or small SMEs, is less than 1%, and it is 20 times less than the share compared to Germany. And the next share, which is a little bit larger, from 300 megawatts kilowatt to 2000, is 6%. And if you look at the table comparison to Germany, and we see that in Germany, to measure, they made a smaller group, less than 10 kilowatts. It is 40%, which is I have many friends in Germany. Some of them, they have solar power on their roofs, on their garage, or if they are small entrepreneurs, on their shops. And in Bulgaria, we have no 10 kilowatts, and the next is below 30 kilowatts, it is 1%. And you see, between 1 and 100 kilowatt in Germany, it is 38%. When together, it is almost the half of the production of solar power. And in Bulgaria, we see at the last line, 86% is coming from the big solar plants like this one. And this is, and what we found with I have a PhD who defended his PhD. Maybe half of this huge solar plant, but owned by representative of country oligarchy. I mean, member of parliament, political leaders, sometimes hidden by some trusted people, and they, or the wife of a former prime minister. She had several huge.
Sorry, Ivan, you have out of time, so maybe just
so
some final thoughts.
I'm actually almost ending. This is the last. And I just to finish this is that having this kind of pattern of introduction of green energy means that which is designed by European Union policy, that the European Union policy can be transformed by local elites in completely opposite way. So instead of building trust in people, actually it was a tool from local elites to extract a surplus value from a local population. So we can discuss later on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivan. It's quite interesting experience from Bulgaria and its system. So we should go on, and because actually we have some particularly, we have next presenter representing Russian NGO, Anton, and he will speak Russian and I will translate, so it takes a little bit more time. He will tell us about his experience, because he's many years in this agenda, about the Russian coal region, Kuzbas. Anton, you can talk and I will translate by
Yes, I'm Anton Lemontruth. I'm working in Russian NGO Eco Defense 6 years. I was born and I live in Kuzbas. It's the main coal region in Russian Federation. And I will show you a bit slides. And I will need help, Olga. Okay. Can you see it? Olga, видно?
You can start.
Okay. Кузбасс – это регион, где добывается больше всего угля в России, и примерно 2/3 угля, добытого в России, экспортируется именно из этого региона. Регион расположен в центре, практически в центре Евразии, и удален на 4000 километров от Европейского Союза и на 5000 километров от морских портов, связывающих Россию с азиатскими странами.
So Kuzbas is one of the main region of coal mining and export to Eurasia and Asia. It export 2/3 of mining are exporting. This region is situated kind of in the middle of Eurasia continent, and you can see the map. The distance between sea one sea and another sea in west and east are quite similar. It's like 4,000 kilometers and 5,000 kilometers. Okay.
Последние годы здесь добывается 250 миллионов тонн, и Россия занимает третье место в мире по объемам экспорта угля. Европейский Союз один из главных потребителей российского угля, и первые два места занимают Нидерланды и Германия.
So Russia is exporting 350 million tons per year. It's the third place in the world by the volume of mining, and European Union is one of the main consumer of Russian coal. And first two places from consumers are Netherlands and Germany.
Да, и важная деталь. Главный потребитель угля из Кузбасса именно Германия.
And the main consumer, the Kuzbas coal, is Germany.
Большая часть угля добывается вот в таких огромных ямах, которые расположены рядом с местами, где живут люди.
Most of the coal are extracted from this kind of place that you see on the presentation, and these places are quite nearby the people's settlements. You can see it on the picture too. Yeah.
Да. На этой карте очень хорошо видно, красные это угольные разрезы, зеленые это скопление домов, то есть где живут люди.
So on the map you can see red spots, it's coal mines, open pits, and greens are the people settlements.
Так выглядит самый страшный город, самый грязный город, город Киселевск, когда мы смотрим со спутника. Белое – это снег, черное – это угольная пыль. И в этой угольной пыли расположены дома, где живут люди.
So this is a picture from the satellite. This is the most polluted city, Kisilovsk. You can see the black spots, it's the coal dust, and white spots, actually, it's people houses where people live. So there's a coal dust over the city.
Здесь расположено 9 угольных разрезов, и живет 88 тысяч человек.
Here are 9 coal open pits mines, and there are 88, 88?
Yes.
88,000 people living there.
В целом в Кузбассе в такой ситуации живет, по нашим подсчетам, порядка 250 тысяч человек.
In general, in Kuzbas, according to their accountings, there are 250,000 people living in such kind of conditions.
Я работаю 6 лет в экозащите, и все это время мы ведем мониторинг нарушений прав граждан, помогаем местным сообществам бороться, защищать права, защищать здоровье, и мы распространяем достоверную информацию о том, что на самом деле происходит в Кузбассе, то есть какой ценой достается уголь.
So Anton is 6 years in Eco-Defense, this NGO. The main goal of the NGO is to monitor the violence of citizens' rights for a decent life, and they help people to get accountable information about the situation, about the influence on their health, and distribute this information not just inside Russia but also outside Russia about the price of coal that people in Kuzbas are paying.
Люди, которые живут в Кузбассе, их жизнь короче в среднем на 3,5-4 года, чем в целом в России.
People of Kuzbas, they live in 3 or 4 years less than other population of Russia.
К сожалению, на сегодняшний день мы не видим примеров устойчивой трансформации, не только в Кузбассе, но и во многих других регионах, но прежде всего в Кузбассе. И я считаю, и я уверен, что главная причина – это то, что российское правительство подавляет гражданское общество во всей стране и в Кузбассе в частности.
Unfortunately, there are no any positive examples of sustainable transformations, not just in Kuzbas, but in Russia overall. And the Anton opinions and the NGO opinions that the main reason is that the government of Russia is oppressing any civil initiatives of civil society.
Моя организация, в которой я работаю, стала первой российской экологической организацией, которая была внесена в список по закону об иностранных агентах.
The NGO that Anton is working on, Eco Defense, it was the first non-governmental organization that was put in the list of so-called non-desirable foreign or non-desirable organizations. We have some special list in Russia for it. It was first ecological NGO that put in this list.
В результате этого закона в России очень трудно вести системную деятельность низовым инициативам. Мы вынуждены противостоять каким-то очень плохим проектам, но мы не можем системно влиять на улучшение, и мы не можем заниматься трансформацией наших регионов.
As a result, in Russia, it's very difficult to hold any systematic activity towards better future, better environment. So the NGO they have to resist just to resist some bad projects of the government, but they cannot systematically influence on the policy and on the project in general.
Например, в 2018 году экозащита и правозащитная организация «Команда 29» из Санкт-Петербурга в российском суде доказали незаконность изъятия земли у фермеров в пользу угольных компаний. Но теперь правозащитная организация уничтожена, ее руководитель вынужден был бежать из России, так же, как вынуждена был бежать из России наш сопредседатель Александра Королева. Теперь она живет в Германии.
So one example, in 2018, the Eco Defense NGO and their colleagues from other organizations from St. Petersburg, Team 29, they first in the history of Russia could prove in the court that taking away forcefully the land from farmers for coal company is illegal. But as a result, this organization, Team 29, is ruined. Its head is flew away. He's a refugee from Russia, as well the head of Eco Defense. He is now in, or she is now in Germany.
Несмотря на все эти ужасные события, которые сейчас в России происходят, гражданское общество существует, оно выживает, оно сохраняет свою компетенцию. Мы считаем, что необходимо помнить, что оно есть.
So despite on these quite disappointing facts, there is a civil society in Russia. It is surviving and it's keeping in its competency.
И я считаю, что гражданское общество – это тот инструмент, который может в будущем, когда ситуация изменится, политическая ситуация в России изменится, повлиять на устойчивую трансформацию, то есть подтолкнуть к ней. И мы надеемся, что со стороны Европейского Союза будут также сделаны шаги навстречу, чтобы помочь российскому гражданскому обществу выжить, защититься и сохраниться.
So the civil society, this still is a good instrument, good tool to influence green transformation, sustainable transformation under the condition of changing political regime. And we definitely hope that the European Union would assist somehow to Russian civil society to survive and to keep going and performing activity towards better environmental future for all of us.
That's all. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Anton. I would like to say that if audience have questions, you can put it in the chat, and after we finish, I will read the questions, and our participants could answer it. So we'll have some time to answer the questions. And now it's last presentation from me, and this is actually a particular case. Okay, I hear echo. I hope you can see the screen over there. So this is a case about Krasnoyarsk. Krasnoyarsk is a city with a million plus population in Siberia, and this is a highly polluted due to various factors. It has much heavy industry, coal use, and four heat and power plants, and many local boiler stations, and of course heavy traffic. And coal provides the half of the region's electricity and is used extensively to heat private houses. Although Russia is the world's biggest natural gas exporter, much of Siberia is not connected to the national pipeline network. So another fact that Krasnoyarsk is situated in kind of basin and is protected from winds by Sayan Mountains. In the windless days, the city is covered by tight smoke, which creates extremely dangerous environment for citizens. So local government, local authorities, they very often announce the regime of unfavorable meteorological conditions when people are recommended to go not to go outside, to not to open windows, and the industry plans are to slow down performance. You can see the table with days of each year, how many days were announced with this unfavorable regime. And for more than 20 years, citizens went to the streets with protest, and the local authorities ignored them, actually. The official narrative is in blaming citizens and wind. Citizens for using too many individual automobiles, which local authorities call the main source of air pollution in Krasnoyarsk, and wind or windless days for keeping this pollution over the city. In official news, authorities translate the idea that most of the time there is no dangerous pollution in the city, and they refer to official data of the sensors they use for air pollution monitoring. Until 2017, federal and local authorities had monopoly for data of air pollution. Regional Ministry of Ecology had around 9 to 10 stationary sensor stations and a few mobile stations. And the data from these sensors are published on the official website. You can see the screenshot now. This is for 4th January. I put the red line around the green. Everything is okay. Exposure limits of PM 2.5. And I should say that Russian standards for this PM 2.5 are higher than of World Health Organization. It's higher approximately in 3-5 times. You can see in the table below. And it creates actually a situation when official sensors show normal level of pollution. And at the same time, citizens could see heavy smoke and could feel nausea, headache, heart problems, and physically not well. The sensors of Regional Ministry of Ecology are not displaying the pollution at the level that people can actually feel and see it. And exactly this long lesson denial of the problem by local authorities become the trigger for the creation of citizen monitoring system of air pollution called Nebo Live. So this is a screenshot from their a web browser. Unfortunately, I can show you if it can show the changes in in pollution by every hour. And if you check the 4th January, it will be red and even green, even black, the worst pollution possible. In comparison to official data, it's huge difference. So in yeah, so this active citizens who developed this monitoring system, they also fundraise money to buy sensors and servers and launching online monitoring platform. They also asked other citizens to install the sensors on their windows and balconies. And the reaction of authorities on this good beginning was quite surprising. Ministry of Natural Resources and the prosecutor office initiated accusation of the main activist, Igor Specht, of publishing data received from unlicensed sensors, arguing that it was in violation of federal law. So the Krasnoyarsk citizens supported this activist Igor by flash mob. They posted in social media pics of weather forecasts and outdoor thermometers with words, "Do we need to license it too?" and hashtags, you can see it over here. There were around 600 posts in local social media. It appeared also that federal law doesn't imply they are licensing the data collected by individuals. So the accusation was withdrawn. The flash mob created huge popularity of Nebo Life in the region and even outside. However, offline protests were not so crowded. Plus, people, when wind flew away the poison smoke, people just forget about the problem. And still, local authorities, they become more aggressive reacting to these protests. You can see the famous picture from Krasnoyarsk protest. So the military men are much more than protesters. And actually, protests were blocked, and people felt that nothing could be changed. And the main leader of this movement announced that he and his family are moving out from Krasnoyarsk to Moscow. However, COVID-19 messed up his plans and stopped any offline protest activity at all. All authorities banned all meetings referring the critical epidemic situation. So the monitor, the Igor and his team, they stop making any active protest moving and just focus on the technology and delivering information to the citizens. So what happens for this one COVID year? Actually, they opened the platform on many social media, and it started to become a grassroots innovation movement. Using social media, Nebo Life started to consolidate citizens in various ways. First, through informing citizens about the pollution situation and also the results of analysis that they provided. So next, creating awareness. What's important, they found out the main source of pollution. It was not traffic or even industrial plants. It was mainly of coal using in local boiler stations and enterprises. Next, they reveal actually the obsolescence and inappropriateness of existing regulation of air pollution control in the region, in the country at all. And through their platform, social media, they kind of educate people, citizens, of their rights, of their legal possibilities to fight for clear air. And what's more important, they educate how not to fight with authorities as with abstract leviathan, but to take agency in legal ways and build relationship with quite specific institutions, state institutions and persons in power. So it allows them to organize quite interesting actions such as social platform. It's online, still online. It was created with active citizens to develop mechanism of public control and communication. It allows them to launch joint working group with representative of power, scientists and representative of industry. Also, they were invited to develop the national index of air pollution and maybe change the standards. And the last interesting innovation is launching ecological primaries. So Nebo Life become a platform for those candidates who would announce their program, how to make city better and to support them in elections. So what happened here? People from local community ruined state monopoly for data of air pollution. They self-mobilized for performing system to monitor air pollution and control government's actions. And they problematized the air pollution situation. They open up gaps in data system of air pollution and in organization of data management and use. And finally, they empower citizens to become a negotiating party for the government, for industry, and for academia. So I suppose this is one of the unique case of a positive case of change for such a big city like Krasnoyarsk. Thank you very much. I suppose I can switch off the demonstration. Yes. So I think we can all participants can join us, and we can try answer the question that we see in the chat. So there is a question from Slava Radosevich. I think it's for Ivan. I wonder if the Bulgarian path of large solar plants is typical for other CAC. Anybody has looked at this issue? Maybe Ivan could reply anything for it. Ivan? So Ivan is not. I see that Imogen asked, recommended to write. Yes, the question for Anton. You can see it in chat. Anton, I translate it right now. Anton.
I can start answer on Russian.
Okay.
Я не могу ответить на первые два вопроса, потому что иначе я сяду в тюрьму. Но у нас есть третий вопрос.
So just a second. Anton cannot reply for first two questions because it will be actually the case for the prison holds in Russian circumstances.
It's possible. Что касается третьего вопроса, да, оказать давление можно, но на потребителей угля из Кузбасса, на те банки, которые финансируют угольные компании, и помочь распространять информацию о том, какой на самом деле ценой достается уголь, который покупают страны в Евросоюзе.
Yes, there is a possible to make pressure actually for some stakeholders like banks proliferating. Ivan, please switch off there. By proliferation, the information and to oppress the banks who funding these mining companies. Ivan, please switch off the microphone. So the pressure could be done by information proliferation and rising awareness about what the coal price is. So this is the main point of Anton's.
Oля, I apologize. I didn't hear for a while, but I hope it's nothing important for me.
Yeah. We recommend to write to your email the question, so you could answer the question, because we have just 3 minutes left, and I try to see what is also in Russian cases stark reality. Okay, this is one of few international forums where these countries are active. About Russia and
I saw some question of Slavo if the Bulgarian path of large solar plants is typical for other. I think it is true. And when I reported this on my meeting, a colleague of mine who is economist said that situation in Bulgaria is very similar to situation in southern Italy, where mafia is controlling 100% of solar power.
Okay.
And this is the only thing I know at this stage. But this is a similar in Romania. At least I think in the country which local elite are hijacking the state, which I say in my presentation.
Okay, thank you. So we have 2 minutes left. I would like just to make some bottom line on this session. All we want just to draw attention that post-Soviet world is kind of different world, that we have the same institutions and stakeholders, but they don't work, they don't act as they do it in liberal democracy countries. And I think it's a good point to start investigating, to research it, to understand how to make dialogue in political way. And we academic sector and NGO should join our efforts to at least to make information proliferation and raise awareness about what's going on in this region, because after all, Russia is 1/6 of the continent, and ecologically it influences on the whole continent. So thank you for joining our session. Our contacts, I believe, on the platform, and if any ideas or questions appear, please contact us, contact me or Anton, Ivan, Imogen, and we will gladly answer. So I think we can wrap up. 1 minute left. Thank you very much for you guys that you joined and for our audience.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very